Hello everyone, welcome back to Neurohacks and Wisdom. In today's video, we're going to talk about 3 important concepts related to autism that can be confusing for people who are not familiar with the condition. We will be discussing autistic meltdowns, autistic burnout, and sensory overload, and we will also provide some tips for managing each of them. First, let's talk about autistic meltdowns. Autistic meltdowns are intense responses to overwhelming situations that can be triggered by various stimuli such as loud noises, bright lights, or a change in routine. During a meltdown, the individual may feel like they have lost control of their emotions and behavior and may exhibit behaviors such as crying, screaming, or hitting themselves or others. It's important to note that meltdowns are not intentional acts of misbehavior but rather a response to an overwhelming situation. So, how can you manage an autistic meltdown? The first thing to do is to create a calming environment. This can be achieved by removing the source of the overwhelming stimuli or finding a quiet, safe space where the individual can calm down. It's also important to avoid confrontational or judgmental language and to give the individual time and space to regulate their emotions. After the meltdown, it's important to debrief and offer support to the individual. Now, let's move on to autistic burnout. Autistic burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that can be experienced by individuals with autism who have been exposed to prolonged periods of stress or sensory overload. This can lead to a loss of skills, executive functioning abilities, and sensory processing abilities. Autistic burnout can be triggered by a variety of factors such as overstimulation, social pressures, or work-related stress. So, how can you manage autistic burnout? The first thing to do is to recognize the signs and symptoms of burnout, such as fatigue, decreased motivation, and difficulty concentrating. It's important to reduce stressors and create a routine that includes time for rest and relaxation. It's also important to communicate with others and ask for help when needed. Finally, let's talk about sensory overload. Sensory overload is a state in which an individual's senses become overwhelmed by environmental stimuli such as loud noises, strong smells, or bright lights. This can cause physical discomfort and can trigger a range of emotional responses such as anxiety, irritability, or panic attacks. Sensory overload is a common experience for individuals with autism, as they may have heightened sensitivity to certain stimuli. So, how can you manage sensory overload? The first thing to do is to recognize the signs and symptoms of sensory overload, such as agitation, restlessness, or avoidance of certain environments. It's important to reduce the amount of stimuli in the environment, such as turning off bright lights or reducing noise levels. It's also helpful to create a sensory-friendly environment that includes calming elements such as soft lighting or soothing music. So, to summarize, autistic meltdowns, autistic burnout, and sensory overload are 3 important concepts related to autism that can be managed with specific strategies. Understanding these concepts and knowing how to manage them is crucial in creating an environment that is more supportive and understanding of individuals with autism. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.